All right.
I told them we weren't going to turn it
I did. All right, Mr. Howard, we're live on YouTube.
Okay, we'll start early then. All right. The budget meeting is called to order at this point. And we had, make a change.
extra everything.
Yeah, no, but I had something else that has to be done first. And I had it written down. So I'll give it.
Oh.
Okay, I got it. All right. On the 17th of May, when we left here, we had basically said that this is the budget and all. And so now we're back looking at this again. So with that, as mayor, do you wish to open this meeting to alter items within the budget the committee approved on May 17th of this year?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
based on the recommendation from the auditor. I think that's what we need to do.
okay. Then therefore, everything that was in the budget approved on the 17th of May is open for discussion, change, or wherever that we need to go at that point. Okay, Vina has been working hard. She sent us out a bunch of information today, and you've got a copy of it, I believe, in front of you at the present time. And have you changed anything since I printed it off this afternoon?
No, it's exactly as printed.
All right. First things first then, the American Rescue Plan funds were all placed into the operating funds for the FY23 budget. 250,000 into the 116 account and 1.342 million into the 101. Okay, please explain why we did that. And I mean, I know that
Yes.
everybody's doing.
We had a visit from audit. It's important to know that audit does not tell us what to do, but they can give recommendations on what they feel is the best way. And because the ARPA funds, there's been changes all along, and we've been very, it's been a good thing that we've been slow to spend those funds. Because as more direction comes out, audit is now giving us what they feel is the best way to run those funds through our budget for auditing purposes. And what they said is, and CTAS had brought this up a ways back, so it's not the first time we've heard it. But what audit said is because the federal government gave a $10 million exemption on ARPA funds being able to go into your general budget and cover any general service. That meant that our almost 1.6 million in ARPA funds could all be put into our budget. Now, the mayor and y'all know that we wanted to do long-term projects with those ARPA funds. That's not going away. But what they stated was if we put those funds into our general operating budget for fiscal year 23, that will then free up funds to do those projects that we wanted to do. It's all in the wording. So if we do a resolution that says the American Rescue Plan funds are being used for general services in fiscal year 23 budget until gone, and we identify what services, I figured jail, sheriff, and we can throw fire department in there. That more than covers all of the ARPA funds. When it's time for audit, this is when it becomes important. When it's time for audit, whether it's our state audit or if federal comes into audit 5 years down the road, et cetera, as we talked about, when audit looks at how we've used our funds, it was to cover general services. They look at our budget, we spent the money, audit is over. If we do it, as we've kind of been walking down the road where we have a water project, a sewer project, they're going to audit each one of those projects individually, make sure that it all fits the criteria. And then you could be in the position of having to pay back money because something wasn't perfect. it alleviates that problem. So, again, audit is simply telling us that when they come into audit, that's what they would look at. It went into our budget, it was spent in our budget for general services. What I did is then I took all of the projects that you already approved and I put them into our budget in appropriate line items. So you have the 240,000 City of Erin water project, you have the City of Tennessee water project, you have the Dale Seward project, you have all of the projects that you already approved in this budget. In addition, I did add the property assessor's vehicle. The reason for that is we had originally thought when we sell the ambulance, when the hospital transfers, EMS transfers, we'll sell that ambulance that is ours and we'll buy property assessor. We've been waiting to do that. We still don't have any final word on the hospital. So I changed this budget and I put that property assessors in there as well, using ARPA funds, if you will. I also, the last meeting we had, you all had, 500 to 550, I'd have to look it up, left in ARPA funds that we didn't absolutely decide on. And it was talked about that if we have to run an EMS budget for a full year, we're going to need that money to cover it. It's the only way. So what I did is I put a full EMS year budget in there. This is a worst case scenario budget, but it allows us to go forward, pass the budget, have the funds for everything that we need. So what will happen is, there's more to it, but what will happen is when, and I'm going to say when that transfer is approved and EMS in the hospital goes, let's say it goes the end of July, the remainder of that EMS budget would then be free for the commissioners to say, here's what we want to do with that money. Go back to the other ARPA fund projects that you wanted to do and transfer that money into those projects. It allows us to go forward. Also,
then all of the ARPA money that we wanted to hold, the 500,000, is actually what is now holding to the EMS.
It's covering the EMS
keep it
budget.
Running.
Yes, sir.
For
however long it needs. In addition to, and so part of the ARPA money went into Fund 101, our general fund for all of those projects. 250,000 of it is going into the convenience center fund to cover the paving and the equipment. That's 250. So that's an equal amount. 250 going in for general services, and convenience center costs are considered general services. So all that should work out as well. We also, at the end of last budget, had about 325,000 deficit in our budget that we decided we wanted to cover with unassigned fund balance. The only place we have that unassigned fund balance is in Fund 101, our general fund. So I took the tax levy, moved the pennies around so that the convenience center is now totally covered for this year, not using the ARPA funds, but using the pennies. And the unassigned fund balance will cover that $325,000 that we were upside down in 101. So we have a balanced budget. You all asked me to check with the comptroller's office about it. I did. They understand the situation with the hospital and the convenience center problems. They felt like this would be fine. I spoke with 2 auditors. I had them look it over. They too thought that this would be fine. So what I did is brought a budget to present to you that changed the way the ARPA money is going to flow through. It's a changing wording. ARPA funds are going to cover general services, but that allows us to do the projects we wanted to do with the ARPA funds. That's how it would be phrased. It's just a different way of funneling through our budget. None of the projects are going away.
Okay, just to reiterate then. So by changing the pennies and the allocation there, going into solid waste, et cetera, then the property tax is going to fully fund the 116 for this next year.
What we have to remember is that next fiscal year,
you're in a deep hole.
Next fiscal year, those pennies will have to go back, and that's why you have to come up with equipment and or stickers, whatever is going to make our convenience center self-sufficient. We're buying that year that we talked about to make that happen with all the things you guys have talked about. So that's how that will be as well. In addition, we should have paid additional debt off in 151. I believe there are 2 different things that will just be paid off next year. So
Smaller.
151, yeah, they're smaller, but we'll still have a little bit of money there that can go somewhere. I expect our property taxes to be up a little bit next year that we can use. The following year, it should pop up quite a bit because our ratio will drop off if all goes well. It's a very complicated budget year. The only other thing that I did, again, we have a 27 payrolls in fiscal year 23. So I had to factor that in. So when you're looking at this budget, some of the salaries are higher than you would expect. What I did is I took everything that was voted in, put that in, but I had to add that 27th payroll in there. So some of those salaries look a little bit higher. I had to do a few corrections there. The other thing that we found out is that our health insurance is going up 11% in January of 2023 because of COVID expenses. Now, we had budgeted for that, and we always budget high in our medical insurance because we never know when we may have a large group of people that decide to come on our medical. So I added a little bit more, maybe $2,500 of that into the medical insurance. I expect that we're going to be able to pick up a big chunk of that increase, but maybe not all of it. We'll know in January based on how many people take the insurance. Right now, our employees pay $50 a month, and the county pays $477 per employee for medical insurance. So we offer a very low cost to our employees. The last time we had an increase, we absorbed it. The time before, they paid $10 of it. So we're kind of in a mode of every other time they increase it, we pass a little bit on to the employees. So it wouldn't be outrageous if we had to. Again, I'm hoping that we've got enough in there. We have 220,000 in there. And it's a half a year increase. So I did do that.
How many people you got on the insurance right now?
We have about 30, I have to look, between 30 and 35 right now on insurance. It changes almost on a daily basis with people coming and going. And of course, if our EMS transfers, some of them will also come off of that as well. Anything else that I've forgotten? I've given you the EMS budget, and that's interesting because it has so many different columns. But that's the explanation on basically why we're here and why everything kind of changed with that visit from audit, because they gave us some good pros for changing the way that money flows through our budget. But, you know, I reiterate that it is a choice that y'all are making. It's just I wanted to present a budget that makes that happen for you all, because it sounded like the pros were pretty important.
With your budget, everything you align and doing the way they recommended.
Yeah, I sent it.
Do they have the blessing of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well documented on that?
What I did is after I made these changes, I sent a copy of the budget to audit and to comptroller actually, just to say, is this the way you want ARPA funds to filter through? And he said that looks correct. And they're learning as they go as well. I mean, it's changing daily. The only other thing I'd like to tell you about ARPA funds is that we are making interest on that ARPA money, obviously that's sitting in Fund 127. We make about $220 a month in interest on that money right now. We're still expecting the second tranche of money to come, the remainder of that. That interest can be, according to the final rule, can be spent anywhere, any way the commission wants to spend it. It doesn't have any criteria attached to it at all. So I only transferred the money we have to account for into the fiscal year 23 budget. That interest will sit there, and then y'all can decide, you know, something that comes up that you're looking for funding, you can use that money for. Or if we come across something this fiscal year, diesel fuel, we could use it for that as well.
Okay.
And just interesting, when I was talking to the comptroller, I was explaining to him the additional cost of our convenience center and I brought up diesel fuel. And he said, that's interesting. That we all need to think about diesel. I mean, that's our ambulance department, our convenience center. A lot of our vehicles are using diesel. So I did a 2 fiscal year comparison. And just this year, from the beginning of this year, I believe our diesel was just under $2.50 this fiscal year, and it was lower than that last fiscal year. It has doubled. It is getting close to $5 a gallon for diesel fuel the last time we ordered.
And projections are $8 a gallon for the first year.
So having that interest to pull from could be a really good thing.
Okay.
I hope all that makes sense. It's been really fun.
Okay. The 10% increase across the board, what does that look like and how's that holding?
It is holding in the budget. The budget you have has the 10% increase in it. It has a full year EMS budget, has all the ARPA funds going through it. It has the chairs and the cameras. Everything else that was already approved and discussed is in that budget.
What was the total amount of money on the 10%?
I want to say, I don't know, I'd have to look. I have it right here though. The extra payroll is $85,265. Let me see if I can come up with the 10%. It was so long ago. I do not have the totals. I can get them for you if you'd like downstairs.
Well, I'm asking because I'm getting flack from the people in the community on the 10% rather than doing something different.
Well, as you all know, the 10% is a makeup for not doing raises of any substantial amount for quite some time, and the cost of living. I've had my employees coming to me saying the city of Aaron is giving $6 an hour across the board. So
They got bigger pockets than we do, that's all.
Have any of the other commissioners gotten calls from your constituents about the 10% raise?
Anybody?
if you look at the hourly wages, they're pretty reasonable.
I've got a couple, but they're,
The wages are reasonable to be paying them. They're not reasonable to be getting them for work performed by county employees. They're still very underpaid.
I don't think any of us disagree with that. It's just, I think the way it's being looked at, the 10% is a very high number when you look out there compared to, in fact, the state said no more than 5% this year. I mean, that was one of the requirements from the state. That's not,
The elected
Individual
officials
employees.
are getting over 5%.
I read today from the state of Tennessee, which they said that it cannot be more than 5%.
I think they did a retro to allow themselves to have a higher than 5% based on, because they had a lower one the fiscal year. I think that's how they did it, because elected officials did 5.65.
5.6.
5.65, yeah. Judges were 4.7, elected 5.65. I think, what's our inflation rate?
Depending on where you live. You live on Buckeye, about 12.
The national average is about 8%.
About 8,
It's
yeah.
just a fraction over 8 now.
So. I
If you
mean,
factor
we're
in
not
county
giving them
employees
much
that
if
have
we
worked
don't
here
give
for
them
more than
that.
10 years, they went years without a raise.
we did what last year? Was it 5%?
Last year we did
We
2%.
get 22 cents, they got 2%.
Yeah, they got 2% last year, and the year before that, I believe it was 3%. Was it, or 5?
I don't think we got anything the year before.
Oh, no, you're right, it was the year before
Year
that.
before that.
Yeah, it's been every other year.
Evidently, inflation doesn't affect county commissioners.
We have put that raise in there as well. From 100 to 300. That's factored in there as well, so we didn't change that either.
How do the rest of the commissioners feel about the 10%? Will it pass when we take it to the full?
I don't know. I know for the majority, it's not much. But for a few personnel, it is tremendous amount of money.
Right.
But for just the regular, run-of-the-mill worker that's making $10 or $11 an hour, it's just small.
It's a fair amount of money across the board for whatever skill sets you're working for the county.
It's a good raise, 10%, no matter what they
It's
make.
nowhere near $6 an hour.
Like I said, our pockets ain't that deep. We can get them that deep, though.
We don't have nearly as many employees.
No,
I mean, we have more.
we got a lot more
yeah,
employees.
City of Marion, I mean, I have.
We do have a lot more employees.
We have a
We're
lot
gonna
more.
start losing our employees to, when you can go down to McDonald's or Wendy's and make $16, $18 an hour and have almost no responsibility, people are gonna start looking at that. We cannot expect these people to continue to be loyal and dedicated to Houston County and pay them peanuts. I did it for 7 years as a county service officer, working my tail off for peanuts. I got a 2% raise in 7, or a 2% bonus. Wasn't even a raise. Like 1 year, I got a 2% bonus. We got to catch up with the times.
We do, but the problem is paying for it in 24 and 25 and 26. Right now with all the money that has been coming in, it looks feasible. It looks like the right thing to do, and it is the right thing to do. But in a few years, it's going to be tough taking care of all these raises.
Every year, we're paying off more and more debt. And the Solid Waste Committee is going to have to come up with a solution for our solid waste problem. Just about every community, every county in the state has some kind of a fee schedule or scales or something, and we've got nothing. And we've got to get up with the times.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to put some scales out there. We're gonna have to invest some money, and we're gonna have to make that a cost center for the county. It's gonna have to bring in revenue. We can't just continue pumping money into it and getting nothing out of it.
It's good that we're paying debt off. We need to. That's awesome. But as well as I do, within a few years, something's going to come up. That's going to have to be built. That's going to take a lot of money.
Right.
And it'd be good that we have that wiggle room right there to do it. But still, that plus increases on wages, it's going to be tough.
Well, fortunately, we have the wiggle room this year that we have the extra money in fund balance to add the $300,000 that we need, because we've been proactive. We've done what we needed to do. We've been fiscally responsible, and we've got our $500,000 fund balance policy covered, plus an extra $500,000.
You have to admit too, we have been extremely fortunate in which the federal government gave us COVID money. They paid salaries. It goes one thing after another. And I was looking at and thinking about it today. Over the last 3+ years, counting COVID, when COVID came in, this county has probably received somewhere in the neighborhood of almost $3 million. And that's money we've never seen before. But that's beside the point. Here, I'm back to what I was before. I'd rather have a flat raise than the 10%.
Well, what I would like to see is if you feel that the top tier of your people are getting too much of a raise, then take some of that away and give it to the ones at the bottom. Because the flat raise, it just didn't compute. we're basically helping 5 people with the flat rates that we proposed when we did
Well,
they're getting much less than the 10%. So give the 10% to those that are making, whatever you decide.
okay.
And
Well,
take it
let
away
me
from
throw
the
it
top
back at
tier.
you.
If you have a problem that they don't deserve the,
If I were, not saying they don't deserve it,
well,
but what I'm saying is, what if we did $1.25 an hour, as an example? Okay, how much is that per year per employee?
I can go get, did we do a
I'm
dollar
asking
now?
you a simple question. How much? It's $2,600 a year. That's a nice
All of our
increase.
employees don't work, I work 37 and a half hours, as do most government employees.
But if you take someone $10 or $11 an hour and you give them 10%, that's $1 just
It's
a
a
little
dollar,
bit.
yeah, for most of our
So if you give them
employees,
$1.25,
$1 an hour.
if you give them $1.25, they're getting more.
So they're 11%.
You give a 10% raise. Well, that money's gonna be still spent here in the county. We'll get it back. Yeah, it's a 10%, yeah, I get that 1%. But it's still gonna come back as tax dollars being spent within the county.
You can say that about everything.
Exactly.
That's good. That's a good answer for everything.
I mean, it comes back. If you got county employees, they spend the money in the county, it comes back. All of it? No.
So a 10% raise for the majority of employees equates to $1 and something an hour. $1.25.
$1.12.
So basically, you want to give everybody $1.25 an hour, except for people who have special skill sets and do things that require special education, special training. Those people don't deserve a commensurate raise. It doesn't make any sense.
Nobody's
No,
saying
what you're
that.
saying doesn't make any sense because most companies do not go out and do 10% across the board. Now,
Most
wait a minute. I know you're gonna go out and hit the street and badmouth Spurgeon because he doesn't know what's going on and he blows the budget all out of proportion. All I'm saying is that my deep concern about the whole thing is that 10% is a lot. $1.25 is a lot. But I'd rather do $1.25, $1.50, whatever, to help that person that doesn't have that skill set, that's lower on the poverty level than somebody that's higher. But if you do it at a flat rate, everybody's gonna get $1.25. Everybody's gonna get $2,600 a year.
We all work different
That's
hours.
$200 a month. And that's it.
We all work different hours.
It's gonna be somewhere between 8 and 10 hour difference. Some work 32, some work 37, some work 40, but it's still $1.25 an hour. I've never got $1.25 an hour raise in my life.
You've never worked for $10 or $11 an hour. At least
Yeah,
not
I
in the
have.
past 7
Yes,
years.
I have. I started out way less than that. But anyway,
Well, I wasn't prepared. I didn't know we were gonna revisit this, but I mean, that's fine.
it looked like we was
I did
revisiting
the,
all of it.
I did the cost analysis, I sent it all out, nothing has changed. After we did that, we did not change this, so here we are. I mean, I can go and get that
Just
information.
take the-
I just felt that information was important for all of you to look at before you made that decision, and we did that, and we stayed with the 10%. And this has nothing to do with this, but going back and changing it to $1.25 an hour is going to require hours and hours of work on this budget. It's just what. So, and as far as your emergency services, if we do not up their wages, we are not going to be able to recruit
Or retain.
or retain. So,
We're looking
I mean,
at
when I
sheriff's
looked
department,
at
we're
that,
looking at
you
EMS
know,
department. It's gonna get to the point where the courthouse workers are gonna start looking for other jobs. They already have started looking for other jobs. We're losing them.
our sheriff's office, the 10% raise nets all of them more than $1.25 an hour.
We keep trying to keep up with Montgomery, Stewart, Houston, Humphreys, Dixon, all the surrounding counties. Those are huge counties. They got deep pockets, or they got more tax money than we got. Compares to the bottom 15 in the state, we're one of the smaller counties. I guarantee you, we're doing a whole lot better than most of them are on wages and on everything else. Everybody needs all the money they can get. Everybody deserves more money than they're making. There's no doubt about that. It's just we got to be responsible and make sure that we can do what's right.
And I want to put forth when we go to the meeting next week is that will the legislative body pass the 10%? And I can't at this moment say that it's got the votes.
Well, I think we'll find out when we take it to legislative body. If they change that, then they change it.
Then you're back to square one.
She's at square one now.
I would like to look at the comparison we did and what it actually did when we did a flat. That was $1 though, I believe. So $1.25 is different. Because at $1, we basically took raises away from the majority of our people at $1 an hour, and it helped 5 additional people, our library workers. I believe, if you all remember that wage analysis that we
Okay,
did.
well,
I just wasn't.
we'll let it go at the moment. The wealthy get wealthier and we go from somewhere else.
You know, we left here though 2 weeks ago. I thought we had a budget in line, and then tonight
Yeah.
we got all these new numbers.
I thought we voted on
The
it.
budget has not changed.
Oh, yes, it has been. You gave us some new numbers for one department that's
The whole department changed here.
The EMS department, because when we left here, all right, so what's changed is this, the way our
But
book
it's more than
flows through the
10%.
budget. What, the EMS?
Yeah.
EMS is here because we determined we would wait to see.
True.
And we
but
would
the
come back
raise-
if it
what-
didn't
The
change
budget
much.
you've got is over 10%.
For,
Well, I don't know, well, I know and nothing against Matt, because like you said, for everybody else, they deserve it, but based on $55,000,
the reason
It
I
would be-
did that is because,
I'm gonna step in. Let me remind you, last year, you approved me a pay raise.
Mr. Williams, please ask to be recognized to speak before you approach.
Okay, can I be recognized to speak on my budget?
Yes, you may.
Let me remind you, last year you approved pay raises for all of EMS. All the paramedics, all the EMTs got out theirs.
How
You
much?
took, it went from 14 to 17.50 an hour for
pretty good
paramedics.
ones, yeah.
So 350. The budget, the raise you guys gave me and Kelly Irons, you kept. We didn't get our pay raises. Everybody else did. I'm the lowest paid paramedic in my department. I get up in the middle of the night, I leave my family. I come out, because we got 3 of 6 paramedics. So right now I'm short half my paramedics. I come out from my house and take care of these people because you guys showed me last year. I'm sick of doing it.
I remember,
I don't
I
blame you.
remember when we hired you, I was on the interview committee. I asked you, point blank, you remember what I asked you?
Now we go ahead and go on here.
I asked you if you could do it.
Yep.
For that salary
I did.
that you were willing to do it for.
Yep.
And shortly after you got here, we gave you a raise, didn't we?
Nope. You didn't. You said you were going to and you kept it.
I didn't say nothing.
Yes, y'all did. Y'all sat right here in this meeting and you approved the damn pay raise. When budget time came around, you took the pay raise back. I'm the only one that didn't get one besides Kelly. All the EMTs and paramedics got theirs. We didn't get ours. Have I said a word to you the last year? No, I've kept my mouth shut. Went out there as the lowest paid paramedic.
You need to calm down.
let me explain how this happened. Let me explain how it happened. So when we were getting ready to do the budget last year, we approved all the raises for the workers. But Kelly and Matt it ended up at the last minute because we thought EMS was going to transfer quickly. We just simply approved a 1-year budget, kept it exactly the same as the previous fiscal year. In doing so, you may or may not have realized what happened was leaving his salary at $55,000. We had been discussing his salary, you all have been discussing 65,000 because I had been wanting to do it the same as the election administrator. I thought the responsibility level, the work involved should be equal. We talked about 65,000, but that wasn't done because we ended up passing that budget and left it pretty much the exact same. And we gave the paramedics their raise for the hourly raises that we talked about because we thought we're only going to need to do this for 6 months. We're running a full year budget, we'll be fine. If you remember, we've now had to go back and add money to cover those raises this year. So EMS has been added. Matthew did not get a raise, and it was discussed. Everyone decided that yes, EMS director needs a raise. It wasn't done. So what I did here, you see all these columns. What I did here is I said in fiscal year 22, 65,000 was discussed. That's what I really thought y'all were going to land on until the last minute when the transfer was done and we did a full year. And I talked to Matthew about this and you know, and this is on me. I said, you know, Matt, this transfer is going to go through. Just hang tight. And he did for the whole year. So what I did is I put the 65,000 in there. And for fiscal year 22. So the raise this year would put it up to 69,206, which is the same as I went back to the same as the election. What Matthew did for his fiscal year 23 was he took the 65,000 and added the 10% raise in there. So my finance suggestion there is kind of a compromise middle ground. And I go back to, if we pay our election administrator that much for the responsibilities that she's doing, I think our EMS director, as the position of an EMS director, that's a reasonable amount. Now, as far as the bookkeeper, I could not do that bump in pay because, again, we have other administrative people that we're not paying that much. So what I did on that one is I took a 2%, a 10%, and I've added the extra payroll. And so that's why that one is lower. Otherwise, if you see what his request is, I bumped it 15,000. What you have to know is that's that 27th payroll going in there to pay all those EMTs and paramedics that are out there. That's what that 15,000 extra is on mine.
You all
Rather
understand
than
the 27th payroll every 7
Yes.
years.
Yeah,
there's
it's
one-
just
And I'm
a
not
different
questioning,
thing.
let me explain what I was talking about. I'm not questioning giving Matt a raise
No.
or
Right.
anything. When we left though, we were talking 3 months, but in the budget, it's totally different. And we had
That's
not,
why.
but it had not been approved.
The reason,
Even with Matt's temper tantrum, I still feel the same way.
Okay, well,
It needs to be approved before you do it now, whether
Well, that's
this
why we're
be,
here.
that's why
Yeah.
we're here.
but I
This
mean, he
budget
jumped on
is,
something that was unnecessary.
this budget does have a full year of EMS. And the reason is because we had talked about the fact, you know, where's our drop dead? You know, do we really want to go into next fiscal year with a 3-month budget? Or do we want to cover it? I did it this way. You can go back to a 3-month budget, and then if we haven't transferred it, I can.
Well,
But
you're
you
using
can
the
do
same
a
money
budget amendment.
regardless whether you do a 3-month or a full year.
Exactly. But I think
This is just a plan for, in
This is
case
a
the
plan
hospital
worst
transfer
case,
takes
and
a
it covers
full year.
EMS. Now, the reason you have this is because I need to know from you all whether to leave what I put in the budget as, here's an idea, guys, what Matthew has given you, or anything in between. So this is giving you, and let me explain something else. Fiscal year 21 and 22 budget is sitting here because we didn't change it. And we ran it the whole year. Now, we did amend it and we added some money in there. So I also put the column in for what was requested for fiscal year 22 by EMS. So you could see that, because if you had actually approved that budget, that's where you'd be sitting today. So I gave you lots more information than you probably ever wanted.
What you budgeted is the 69.
I have-
Looking at your
I
budget.
have budgeted the 1,030,562 finance suggestion. That's currently what's in your budget. It is the worst case scenario in your budget right now.
the
The
reason,
part that bothers,
Now, I'm sorry, tell me.
it's from 21 to 23 budget.
Yes, sir.
is $15,000. That's a pretty good raise.
I believe it's reasonable. I mean, that's just my take on it. It's pretty reasonable. The reason you had, I'm gonna be honest with you, Mr. Tony, the reason you had $55,000 in there is you were not happy with your EMS director at the time. And you did not want to pay an EMS director until they proved their worth. And I think regardless of the personal or election issues out there,
Election issues.
whatever it is, it's an election year, everything's election.
You wouldn't think somebody'd be slinging mud, would you?
Well, I'm not going there, but what I'm saying is, look at the position. I think that, I mean, I see how difficult it's been this year to run that EMS budget, and he's done an excellent job.
There's no question about it. We wouldn't have hired him if we didn't think he was well qualified. He's proved himself. There is no doubt about that. No doubt.
And I would say, if you ended up having to go out there and try to hire an EMS director in this environment, for what, if you put, whatever you decide to put in there, you're gonna be hard pressed, and it's going to make.
I wouldn't doubt after Braden took over fully, if they get to, that they wouldn't offer him $85,000.
Oh, his pay will go up. All of our ambulance personnel's pay is going to go up
And we hope
much more than 10%.
Yes,
When they,
but it just,
When it happened,
when it happens.
when it
And,
happened.
I wish it had been,
I would have been 4 months ago.
me too. I wish it had been 9 months
But,
ago.
Is the reason, Matthew, is the reason you pumped your salary, you pumped your salaries yourself to be ready for Braden, is that correct?
No, let me remind you, last year, when you guys did this pay raise, y'all asked me to fill out a sheet to put all my pay rates in. I came to the mayor with that sheet and I said, I do not feel comfortable setting my own salary. I left it blank. You guys set the salary in here in this meeting to $65,000. After you guys passed it, you guys withheld it. That's why I'm pissed. You guys did the pay raise, then you took it back and held it. I've sat quietly all year long. Here we are a year later. It's time to fix it.
I'm talking about your employees. I'm not talking about you.
No, we pumped them to try to keep medics, and right now we're at 3 out of 6.
But you pumped them to be ready when Braden took over, is that correct? Or
No.
We're not at Braden level.
No, Braden's gonna give them a bigger pay. The only thing that we did for Braden last year is when you guys say give the $1,750 to your medics and the 13 to the EMT advanced and 1150 to basic. You said make sure with Braden that that's not gonna be above what they're gonna pay, and it's gonna mess up the deal. So I ran it by Braden. He said, nope, those figures are fine. Keep going. It had nothing to do with Braden other than just making sure we weren't gonna mess up the purchase agreement.
The paramedics and EMTs do have 10%. You did calculate that.
I did calculate that in.
We
And right
actually,
now-
right now, he's down 3 paramedics. So
That's 3 out of 6.
guess who's filling those 3 empty spots? Our EMS director is filling those with not a dime extra in his pocket.
And what you need to know, Matt, you can speak to this better than me, that our hospitals right now are pretty much taking EMTs and paramedics and paying them astronomical amounts because they can't fill their nursing positions. So it's a struggle, and it's not just our county, it's across the country, if you read about it.
It's not a small town thing.
It is not. And, this is something that it's so important to our community. So this is in here, and as far as other numbers in your budget changing, other numbers didn't change except for adding a 27 payroll. Everything else is in there as you decided upon, except I added, and I told you, a little bit more to our medical once I got that 11% instead of 7% raise in our medical.
It's not gonna be much, but in essence, you're already giving your employees a raise next year, because that 27 pay will flip a lot over if you don't check. I know it's not that.
I've been losing
It will
sleep
be a
over
raise.
that. Yeah, it
Because
will
they're
be a
getting
raise.
it, it'll filter into next year, so if you get $2,000 payroll, you're gonna
If
have
we-
$2,000 more next year than you had this year.
If we run that salary line item the same as this line item, what we'll in essence be doing will be our built-in raise.
Yep.
We would then we would have to raise the hourly rates to meet that number. So you would not have to do it except in maintenance of effort, which I thought might come up tonight. But if you did that, you're looking at about a 3.8
It's not
max
much,
raise.
but I mean,
No, it would
It's
be a
something
built-in
you're giving,
raise
it's
for
not
next
gonna
year.
be taken away.
More than likely. You could. You could take it away in almost every instance. I can't imagine you want to do it. But it will be raising their hourly rate next year if we run that salary line item. You could simply take it and multiply their hourly rate times 26 payrolls and reduce that salary line item. So that's not impossible. But other than that, the budget hasn't changed. It's just changing how our money filters through there and following through with a full year EMS budget, because at this point, I would rather do a worst case scenario than having to go in 2.5, 3 months down the road and say, where do you want to get this money from, and amend your budget. But again, these are just options. Everything I've offered you here are options, but this budget is, everything's in it. And the highest amount of your EMS full year budget is currently in that budget. Again, I gave you the worst case scenario.
And this is the first time we've seen it. So take that in consideration
yes,
as we're talking and
I totally
discussing
understand.
things.
And it is so complicated to understand. I deal with it every day. I don't expect you all to be able to look at it quickly.
These new numbers on this page were unexpected.
Yes, sir. This actually came to you last budget meeting, but we didn't really plan on doing the 12-month unless we had to. But you did have this, not my recommendations.
3,
but-
6, and 12.
Yeah.
Where are we at with Brayton now? I mean, what happened to the meeting we're supposed to have 3 weeks ago?
We're supposed to have one.
I'm waiting to hear a date. We're getting no communication from the Attorney General's office. So if anybody knows anybody at the Attorney General's office, or knows somebody that can get a hold of somebody at the Attorney General's office, Miss Janet Kleinfelter is the director of, I can't even think of the name of her office, but I've heard it on her answering machine a million times. She will not return my calls. She will not return emails. The only emails I get are carbon copies of what she's already sent, requesting detailed financial information that does not exist. The hospital has never had detailed financial information, and I can't produce it. I can't fabricate something and produce it. And
Loaded question, do you think that they've seen some red flag it's looking at? And I mean, I realize, and you don't have to answer, it's something that's not kosher.
No, I don't believe that at all, because of Brayton. Brayton has a tremendous reputation.
Well, I'm not saying Brayton, but just something that's holding it up, regardless of what it is. And you don't, just don't answer it, because it doesn't be.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, there is a disconnect in communication between the governor's office and the Attorney General's office. And the Attorney General is not seeking to be reappointed. In September, he's out of office. I think it's just, they're just done. That's my opinion.
Is Brayton pushing this deal? I mean, they pushing hard on it, or?
Yeah. Kyle Kopik was in Washington, D.C. meeting with Dr. Green about that and several other things. I mean, there's people working on it all over Nashville. Jay Reedy's office is on it. Senator Powers has been copied in all the emails. I don't know how aggressively he's working on it.
Mark Green should know how to get over the attorney.
But I mean, Mark Green his office has sent a letter to the Attorney General's office. I can't get a simple reply. I mean, nothing from the Attorney General's office.
That's what don't make sense. I don't show you respect.
Okay, let's go back to this, the changes that we have. First item, take a look at the resolution. All right, this is the resolution that is there to approve the use of the American Rescue Fund Plan. This is what will be going from us as the committee to the entire legislative body. And it's there, well, I'll let you read it.
This was the sample that audit provided to me.
All right.
That would be used.
I talked to the auditor pretty good while, late Friday afternoon.
Was it Mr. Jake or was it Ms. Shelby?
No, the one out in West Tennessee.
Probably Jake McNabb, or
I think so.
Jake McNabb is the one that's kind of headed up the ARPA.
Yeah, it was the one that was here last time that did the presentation.
Oh, Justin.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have any issue with the resolution that's here? Okay, then let's do this like we really should take a look at it. One, I'll make the motion that we accept the resolution that's here to take forward to the full legislative body.
Second.
I have a motion second. Is there any discussion on this resolution? All those in favor? Well, no, we're not going to do that. Okay. The resolution, the first item, we'll go with a roll call vote. Okay. Lance?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Okay. Daggett?
Yes.
French?
Yeah.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brady?
Yes.
Okay. It's unanimous. We have no problem going forward with that. The second item is the letter that Vena has provided for us showing the changes in here that the special projects that are all being set there. And Vena, if I get this wrong, tell me. All right. So we've got the $240,000 for each of the cities. We've got the health department infrastructure, which that's a total of $450,000 when it's over with. The jail sewage project, our part is $51,900, and that total project is somewhere in the neighborhood of roughly $300,000 plus dollars. The convenience center equipment, $160,000 that goes there, and of that $40,000 has already been spent with the order for the compactor that should be in July, right? All right. Then we also increased last time the paving from 65,000 to 90,000 because of the increase in pricing. So that's there. Have you had a chance to put that out for a bid or?
We're going to use, the highway department has a contract with Byard Construction for paving. It's as good a price as we're going to get anywhere. And it's already a standing contract, so we can just piggyback off of theirs.
Any idea when that might be done?
He came out, Mr. Byard came out and looked at it. He's going to send his estimator out to make detailed measurements and stuff, hopefully sometime this next week. We're also supposed to be getting some surge rock and some gravel from the highway department to prep that area, the new dirt area, get that prepped before paving. We can do that because we have the equipment. We can use the loader to move that rock around and spread it out. Mr. Byard, that owns the paving company, said that would save us quite a bit of money, and we could get more bang for our buck with the paving if they can just come out and just do the paving.
All right. Back to the one before that.
The gravel will be coming out of our convenience center budget from this year. It's not going to be
We found
utilizing
money for
any
the
of that.
gravel and rock.
And that money for the paving will be done after July 1st, so that it's in next fiscal year, because that's how the budget's done.
All right, you still have 120,000. I know that there's been some issues with the, I guess the phasing of the pre-crusher and the tire cutter and all.
Yes, I'm meeting with Stephen Black tomorrow. We're going to call the manufacturer to find out exactly what the manufacturer's engineers do not recommend using a phase converter for the pre-crusher. I don't know anything. I'm not an electrical engineer. Mr. Black is. So he's coming to my office tomorrow afternoon. And we're going to call the manufacturer and try to talk to the engineer to find out what exactly the issue is.
Okay. What about the tire cutter?
The tire cutter, Mr. Black is also helping me write up the RFP, the request for proposals. So I'll have that information from him tomorrow as well.
Okay. As a side note on that, I understand that the tire pile is gone.
Yes.
Looks nude up there.
Well, it's all gone, but they're slowly starting to come back. But I've asked those guys to do whatever they can to keep up with them. And
What were they spreading this morning on the concrete? Was that sand? They had piles of either dirt or sand, and they were moving it back and
It
forth.
may have been the paint.
When it was may have been a paint spill, and it's trying to dry it up.
might have been.
That's just curiosity.
Yeah, we all the it's getting completely off the budget.
No, that's fine.
The
I didn't mean to ask.
The old paint that's out there, we've gotten a large load of sawdust from one of the sawmills. Put it in a 20-yard container and we're dumping all the paint in there and they just mix it up. And once it's saturated with paint, we ship it off to Pike County and it can go straight to the landfill.
Okay.
All right, the EMA vehicle, is that, are they in the process of ordering that?
He's been looking. I think they've been trying to look on state contract, yeah. Again, none of this money can be spent until next fiscal year at this point.
We went down, Dale and I, we went to the EMAT training in, I believe it was mid-April. We went around during the lunch break and he's got his name on the list for the truck. It's just a matter of when he gets here.
Okay, probably 6 months plus.
The guy said it could be here tomorrow, it could be here next year.
It cannot be here
You know how
until
that
July.
is.
Okay. And the sheriff's 2 vehicles, are they're
Don't tell them.
gonna be ordered right after the first of the year.
Yes, I talked to him about that.
And back to the property assessor's vehicle on that.
I put that in there at 35,000. And those numbers beside those projects there, you can find it in the budget, those line items of where I've added it to the budget.
Okay, all right, then going to the next page, how we've done the money, and we took the funds that were approved by the auditors and CTAS from the 101 and moved them to 116 to cover for next year. Then my understanding here is that the Solid Waste Committee must, within the next 3 months, probably come up with at least a series proposal. At the time you get equipment, your year's gonna be gone.
So we have it in for next year's budget.
All right, and just to let all of you know, I ran the numbers on that. If you don't do it, then you've got a property tax next year of 16 plus cents. Because that's what you'll have to have in order to keep that place operating and running. So we've got to get that operating and bringing in funds before the end of the year. All right, so this is the letter that is there. And there are a couple of other issues, a side note on that, the handouts, et cetera, and we'll take those individually. Does anyone have any issue with anything that's on this particular handout? All right, then I'll put forth the motion that we accept this and to be presented to the legislative body as the final item, not the final item, but the use of this money in this category. Okay, I have my motion, I have the second in there. Okay, with that, then is there any discussion on that? Okay, hearing no discussion, with that, Lance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
French?
Yeah.
Hayes?
Yes.
Bragg?
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous. All right, so that goes forward. All right, taking the individual items. Okay. Sorry, look. Okay, all right, this is the full year budget for the EMS service. All right. So with that, putting this budget forward is $1,030,562, which is what, about 200,000 over last year's.
We were running 843, 288, but with the amendments, we did 971.
Okay.
So you've got about a $60,000 increase over what we really ran in fiscal year 22.
What is your, and I can go a little bit, what is your projection for fund balance for the end of the year?
If you look back here.
I started saying, I can look, I thought you
have
might
to
know
look.
just.
Well, it's changed many, many times since we started this. It's showing a 1.3 million, 1.3.
Good.
That's what the numbers show.
That's good.
Okay. Any discussion on this one? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion that we approve taking this forward as it's presented here to the legislative body. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second at that point. Any discussion?
We have that $1 million line to cover all this.
Yes, sir. That's what our budget is showing us. And just to be sure, I asked our auditor to look over all our budget amendments for this year, and, they can't, say anything for sure, but they did look it over for me, because this is the first year that I've worked with our fund balance, that we've actually used fund balance, that I've utilized fund balance, so I've never done it before this year, so I wanted her to look at it. And she did look it over, and she didn't see any problems with it. So, and I expect our fund balance, all of our departments are not using all of their funds here, so I think we'll be okay.
How about the fuel?
The fuel, the fuel is always a worry. We increase fuel, but if it continues to go up,
Do we get any room anywhere?
we will. Once you have fund balance, that does give you some breathing room, because that's really where you keep your emergency funds. So if our fund balance is at 1.3, let's say, we have a little bit of wiggle room in there for funds that we can use. I fully expect that our fiscal year 23 budget is going to have to be amended. This year we did more amendments than I've ever done. I think we're probably going to see that just because of the economy and everything that's changing. And of course, we can't predict what may or may not happen as far as something going down or repairs that have to be made.
All right.
It's just in September, October, we sold the fuel past the hospital.
I'm sorry.
Well, I just didn't know. We transferred the hospital by September, October, so we only next month, couple months, 3 months.
Transfer it out in one.
If we have to transfer,
Transfer it out of this line.
I know we're putting all our money over into
We're
that
putting
account.
in there for the full year, but if you end up needing money from somewhere, we can look at the entire budget. The commission has the power to move any money from anywhere that they choose to.
What does this bring your EMTs and paramedics to? They were 17 and something.
Do you know what their raises will be with this?
Yeah, right now we got 3 levels, so EMT is $11.50 an hour. So that would do the 10%, put them at, what's that, $1.15, so $12.65. Advanced EMTs are $13 an hour, so they get $1.30 an hour. And paramedics are $17.50, so they get the $1.75 an hour. And I don't remember Kelly's. Kelly's is odd. It's like $12.24. It's an odd ball. It's not rounded off like the rest of them.
Okay. All right. Don't run away, Matt. Gasoline. This looks to me like the same figure of what we had last year, 28,000.
Yeah.
How's the usage going right now on it though?
Right now, we just filled up, and I'm short. I just got the invoice today. Short about 3,000 in the line item. I've got some money, some other line items I can move around and try to wash out, but we used all of it.
Okay.
I think one of the reasons though, if you look at this, what I did today before I printed these budgets out for you is if you look and it says, that's not on that one. If you look at your ambulance budget in here, just so you know, your current year actual expended line item here on these budgets that you have show you exactly what we spent so far this year out of that fund. So let's look at that. What number are you? Without this new gas bill. Did you move money out of that gas line item?
I don't think so.
No. So that's what I have that we have used so far this year.
No, we haven't moved some.
Yeah, we moved some money out of that gas line item because we've been moving a lot of money around in the ambulance to cover little things here and there. So far, how much is your bill this year? This time?
That's $4,200. Well, that's for diesel, but gas is going to be another 14, so call it 5,500 roughly.
Yeah. So when you look at that 28,000, we had taken some out of that to cover something else. So 28,000
I think it was
is
medical
extra.
supplies.
Yeah, I think we covered medical supplies.
COVID.
So the actual amount spent in 2021 on gas was $14,445. Actually, this year, until this one, we had spent $18,485. So we were well under the 28,000.
So it's a Dublin or
So,
possibly Dublin.
At least we probably have,
The bid we got
an
there
extra
was-
8,000 in there.
It was $5.55 a gallon when they filled it up today.
How much?
$5.55.
Oh, yeah. It's gone again.
Voted in here.
67.
No, it gets delivered by TriStar.
All right, thank you. All right, any other discussion on the EMS? I have a motion and second to take this forward to the full legislative body. All right, vote. Lance?
Yes.
William? Daggett?
Yes.
French?
Yeah.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brake?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. All right, then you have the next item that you're looking at. All right, is the penny count that's in there. And the thing to remember about this, to compare it against last year, is just the movement of the money in order to boost the solid waste. I think last year solid waste was 18 cents, I believe, and something like that. And this is 37. I believe that's what I read or looked at today.
Solid waste was 8.1810 last year.
Okay. All right, so it's there. So that's the change. And then you notice that the general fund from last year, which was 202, I believe, is now 185. And then the highway is 0.009. Is that not supposed to be a full penny?
That was because of the reappraisal. The
Okay.
reappraisal changed all of those numbers. They get the same amount, but it changed those decimal numbers.
I'm trying to look that up today because somewhere in the back of my mind, previous budget, that one of the auditors gave us a fiscal that it wasn't a full penny. I remember the full penny because I even asked him, I said, well, what if we gave them 2 cents out of this? Could we get more from the state? And the answer was no, it has to be a straight penny. So, but as long as we're covered, okay. School doesn't move. Debt service is 12.8. What was it last year?
Debt service last time was 0.1388, so it went down to 0.1280.
Okay, very low. All right, so that makes a
1.28 on.
1.2.
the net value of a penny is 15,467 in there. I'll entertain a motion that we take this forward.
Second.
I have a motion that we take it forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
So, but we're calculating the penny on 14 is what we're using with the adjustment. Is that right?
The adjustment, I'm not sure of your question. The difference, one of the reasons, when you look at this, it looks like our property tax didn't go up at all. We're not netting on anything else. But that's because they're requiring us to use a ratio of 0.7765. So we are actually only getting to calculate and use 77%.
Yeah, that's what I said, you're using 14,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any discussion on this? Hearing no discussion on that, let's vote. Lance?
Yes.
Yes.
William? Daggett?
Yes.
French?
Yeah.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brake?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think that's it, isn't it? All right, are there any other issues or whatever that need to be discussed or items to be approved before this goes before legislative body?
The only thing I would like to say is if there are any changes that come up because I try to prove different things at different times, or if you're looking over this and you have questions or you see something that looks like it's questionable, let me know, because if there are any changes, we can certainly make it and make it known to the full legislative body that this was changed because, and then y'all can have that vote, but the more eyes on it, the better.
All right, I still will express concern. I am concerned that this will not pass the legislative body. Maybe I'm probably wrong, but I think there's some issues that some commissioners are going to really argue.
If the budget should pass and you don't have the hospital, can it be submitted or do you have to wait for the hospital?
I'm sorry, what that, let me,
If the budget passed on the 21st, can it be submitted if you don't have the hospital budget?
I believe so. The hospital is working on the budget. We're waiting to hear something from the AG, but we're past that point. I have asked them to go ahead and start working on a budget. They provided us one last year. They're going to build on that and get one to me as soon as possible to submit with our budget to the comptroller's office.
My goal is to have that hospital budget from them for your working body meeting, so you have time to see it and look at it before it's voted on that Monday.
No chance I'd have it tomorrow, is there?
No. I already asked that question. In fact, we had a hospital board meeting scheduled for tomorrow, and me and Joseph talked about it. He asked me to cancel it because they have people on vacation, trying to use up their vacation for the end of the year, and several people couldn't make it, and they couldn't have the budget ready for the hospital board to approve before then anyway.
So the meeting for tomorrow has been canceled?
Yes. Yeah, I sent you an email, but I sent it. You were probably on your way here when I sent it.
That's gonna be better anyway, because your committee's for budget, it's gonna have to be approved by that group before they can submit it anyway.
Yeah, there's just.
So the hospital board is going to have to meet before the working body meeting. You're going to have to reschedule that.
But you're gonna have to have a budget to do it though.
They're gonna have to have a budget.
As soon as they tell me they have a budget done, I will send out an email and we'll schedule a meeting. And hopefully between now and then we'll hear something from you.
And if for some reason that transfer happens, our budget could go forward. That will just negate the entire EMS budget or the majority of the EMS budget. And that money would then be free for y'all to use for something else.
It becomes ARP-free money for special
Yes.
projects.
And the other part of it would just go back into the general fund.
Well, the majority of it would be
The ARP money.
the ARP money that is
ARP money's
left is
fine,
pretty much
something,
covering your EMS 12-month budget.
Right, that's
When
what
you
we're
look at
using
the
to
revenues,
cover
you
That's
have
what I'm
to
saying,
remove.
it's 5 something, but your budget's $1 million something, so you
That's
got
true.
4 something.
But your revenue covers
Revenue's
about
also
half your
in.
budget in EMS, at least half of your budget in EMS, yeah. Yeah, actually, it covers more. But we also had to remove, and I hope I got it all, we had to remove, the lease payments and the utility payments that we were expecting on that building. So I had to adjust the revenues. In addition, when I put in EMS, I reduced the revenues coming from Braden. I increased the revenues coming from the billing. And it's close.
The 1.3 that you're projecting
Mhm.
is based on using the ambulance budget that we just
The
looked at.
full budget, yes, sir. In the budget.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Could be longer than that.
You're right, sir.
I don't think I would have.
Keep calling me. I just wanted to know if we could put it live. Get through this. They got back. It goes tomorrow, it goes tomorrow. Yeah.
Every year, man, it's gonna be here next year.
Not over
No, email? No.
the Facebook message. That makes you feel like,
Oh, yes, I did do that.
hey, that's our office. We're trying to stop up the issue with the mob and mob. That's good call. Yeah, I've been contacting people. Just to see if they have development plans or different things that we might be able to use. Push that 300,000. Nick Cunningham is with the industrial development. Every time we start, he's gonna look more.
James, the audio is still transmitting on that.
We're not talking top secret.
No, I'm saying the audio on that laptop is still transmitting. I was just told.
Hello. Goodbye. I didn't hit end stream. I just shut the lid. Come on.
Just heard you tell James it's on.